Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I'm an intuitive artist and a student of natural law. And I'm going through a book right now called Formal Consensus here on these videos because I feel that there's something greatly lacking in our group's abilities in the freedom movement to stay together and make progressive action. And yesterday I read about conflict resolution, and it opened up a huge can of worms for me because I realized that I don't really believe that our groups are anywhere near ready to even attempt conflict resolution, because it feels to me like our groups, like it feels to me that we're all, or I can't say we're all, but I'll speak for myself, me and other people, some other people are still suffering from post-traumatic stress as a result of the devastating overturn of our lives 2 years ago. It doesn't feel to me that many of us have recovered from that yet. And that includes me. I can feel myself within myself. I do not feel tapped into my creative force. I feel shut out from it right now. And I felt that way since even before March of 2020. I was already experiencing something like that. But when I lost my entire community because they all bought into the thing, I do not feel that I have even come near to addressing that grief. And looking at how we interact with each other on social media in the last few days from the perspective of what I read in the Formal Consensus book about conflict resolution, it feels to me that actually where it seems to me that the whole of the group, I can't speak for individuals certainly, but I would say the whole of most of us is that we are still traumatized, and we are doing something that traumatized people do to each other, which is, if I was bullied, I then bully others. And what it really is me crying for help. But I'm not sure that I would accept the help because I'm so beaten down that I'm not sure that I trust the other people involved enough to be able to recover from the beating. So instead, I just continue to beat others. And how that's showing up is in a few different ways that I'm seeing on social media, where we're constantly sharing bad news with each other. We're constantly, like, if one person makes a suggestion or something, then we rip that person apart or rip apart tiny details of their suggestion, seemingly to trash their suggestion. And I've done this too, so I'm not gonna, I'm not saying pointing the finger at anybody here. I've just tried to abstain from it as much as I possibly can. Although I think I probably did it the other day. I'm just thinking there was a situation the other day where I did it without thinking. But I'm not going to let that stop me from bringing this to light, because I think this is what the globalists want. This is what they have been setting us up for since the beginning of the internet, and even before that. They're trying to make it so that we cannot unify with each other, so that they can just take us over. We don't have to let this happen, but there will be work required among us if we want to be strong in numbers. I mentioned this in a post that I made yesterday on Front Range Hours, because I'm also doing the barter currency website in preparation for the barter market that's coming up on January 14th at the Independence Institute. Because should people want to have a barter currency in a parallel economy, we are going to have consensus as our basis of communication in producing the currency. I personally cannot produce the currency by myself. It would have to be like a board of trustees. Based on the book Hometown Money by Paul Glover, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. We can just follow what they did. So it would have to be a group of people that use consensus. There's not going to be a tyranny in this one person running it. And I'm not going to have any attachment to whether I'm the one who is part of it or someone else takes it over. But regardless of that, nothing is going to work in this world anymore if one person is running it as a big, loud personality. We must begin to have horizontal communication. And I proposed formal consensus because it was one of the first ways that began in the 70s. It was created in the 70s for a grassroots organization called Food Not Bombs. But I'm not going to go into that. You can look it up yourself. However, in looking at this book, Formal Consensus, and coming upon this one section about conflict resolution, I realized that we are, in fact, what it feels like to me is we are, in fact, enjoying creating conflict because of unresolved trauma from the, jab, lockdown, bioweapon situation that started in 2020. And I'm sure other issues that were triggered by that, childhood issues or other issues that have been left unresolved, were also triggered. And so now, generally, what we're doing to each other is beating the crap out of each other. And I haven't seen any groups hold together. I'm not really sure what's happened. Some groups just can't formulate. Other groups were tight and then fell apart. And then there's people blaming certain personalities for the fall apart of the group. So I'm just going to talk about this a little bit. After I did the video yesterday, I really felt like I had opened up this can of worms. So I started looking into shadow work, because that made me feel like there's so much unresolved trauma that we're all experiencing from the same situation, that we have this great opportunity in front of us where we could use something like a combination of shadow work, which is a type of work that was invented by a guy here in Colorado, internal family systems therapy, and psychodrama. And we could get together as in groups and act out our experience of what we each experienced. Excuse me. What we each experienced when the shit hit the fan in March of 2020. And in so doing, we could build trust with each other. Trust being the first of the principles required in formal consensus, and respect. We could probably, as a result of building trust and respect, we would find unity of purpose. We would learn to communicate in a nonviolent way, which right now we are being violent with each other. Very violent, it feels like. on social media. We might even stop using social media to talk to each other, which I personally feel like would be so fantastic. We could use social media to say, oh, we're meeting over here on this day, but not use it to have conversations. Actually be face to face to have conversations. Self-empowerment would probably become more available if I wasn't in fear that I was going to be attacked by my brothers and sisters when I put forth an idea. Cooperation, we would likely begin to cooperate naturally as a result of having trust and respect. And then we would be willing to resolve conflict rather than make conflict. I mean, right now, it just seems to me that we're making conflict because it's just like growing up in a violent childhood family, which I know all about that, by the way. I became a total bully because I was being bullied, and I externalized all of the ways I was being treated. And it wasn't until I addressed all those things, found a power greater than myself, God, to rely on, and was able to process my emotions, that I was able to integrate myself, become a whole person, and then integrate into society. But I know for myself, any and all unresolved issues came to the surface in March of 2020 and the months thereafter. And I had to do a lot more shadow work. So that being said, I feel like that is maybe what's missing. And I'm just going to put it out there that I'm willing to, if there's a group of people that want to do shadow work together, using this type of method, and that's another thing. Like, I'm not a therapist. I am a spiritual counselor, and I would be willing to facilitate other people and myself going through a process like this. I feel like we should do it ourselves. We should use these different techniques that are all available to be figured out on YouTube. And I'm sure there's also qualified therapists in our midst who might be willing to facilitate and help. But I feel like it should be free, because I feel like, again, this is, I mean, I'm proposing that we begin to barter with each other. I'm trying to create a barter currency based on the hours currency. And this would be a great opportunity to start sharing our knowledge for our own healing. And then as a result of that, I feel that we would be able to approach this book and these processes of horizontal communication without having our shadows come out the side of our neck. Because, I'm just going to read the next principle that's required for formal consensus. It's called commitment to the group. It says, in joining a group, one accepts personal responsibility to behave with respect, goodwill, and honesty. Each one is expected to recognize that the group's needs have a certain priority over the desires of the individual. Many people participate in group work in a very egocentric way. It is important to accept the shared responsibility for helping to find solutions to others' concerns. My experience so far is that when we get together in groups right now, there's a bunch of different agendas that fly back and forth, and some people try to push their agendas on other people, and then other people fight back. And I feel like we are desperate to be unified, but we aren't there. And then also I feel like especially on social media, we just beat the crap out of each other, which doesn't really foster trust, respect, cooperation, self-empowerment. It's certainly violent. It doesn't foster unity. And so, I mean, just going back to the globalist agenda, the satanic, dark Luciferian agenda, they love this, that this is where we're at. They are very happy that this is what we're doing to each other, because as long as we are not united and as long as we are unintegrated individually, then they can just take over and implement their ideas, and we're not going to be able to fight them because we're not going to be unified. And I'm not going to be able to be unified with others until I'm unified within myself. So, like I was saying before, if anyone's interested in doing some group work and just trying to figure it out together, I'm definitely open for that. So you could contact me.